Hi, and welcome to the Azure Platform Tools for Developers, DBAs, and more. I'm Lynn Langett, Developer Evangelist with Microsoft, blogs.msdn.com, SoCalDevGal, Twitter at LLangett. We have mostly demos where I'm going to show you the portal tools, Visual Studio tools, SQL Server, non-Microsoft developer tools, and Office tools. It's going to be a mini-part series so that I can put small segments in an easily consumable way. I'm going to try to cover all of the Windows Azure platform. This isn't a what is the platform, although you'll see some of that. So I'll look at compute, storage, and management for Windows Azure, for SQL Azure, the fact that it's a relational database. I'll look a bit at the data market, and for the Azure Platform App Fabric, Service Bus, Access Control as well. Now there are different types of tools. Like I said, I broke the series down around portal or no install tools and installed tools, and broke them further down by developers, so Visual Studio and SDKs, and DBAs, so Management Studio, and business developers, so Office 2010. And then I'll conclude with other types of tools for non-Microsoft developers, command line tools, so on and so forth. So in this first section, we're going to focus on portal tools, and I'm now going to go to demos. Before you start, however, you're probably going to want to have an account. So if you don't have an MSDN subscription or you haven't signed up, I recommend you try out WindowsAzurePass.com using the promo code DPE West Region 02, or I'm sorry, DPE WR02, and you'll get 30 days worth of Azure services as shown on this slide. So here we are in the Windows Azure portal. This is a Silverlight based portal. As you can see, if I right click on it, you'll see Silverlight. So this can render in any browser. I'm currently using a version of Internet Explorer. So the URL is windows.azure.com, and you'll note that I'm signed in as Lynn Langett. Now for demonstration purposes, I'm using one of those 30-day trial accounts. When you start in the portal, you'll see the home button on the left side, and that will give you a list above it of common tasks, and you'll have some help links in the content window. And up at the top you'll see a ribbon, and you can see the common tasks that you'll want to perform is to create a new hosted service, a new storage account, a new database server, or to use the connect capability to perform routing. You'll note also there's a billing link up at the top and the ability to sign out. So the first thing that we're going to take a look at is in the area of Windows, Azure, storage, and compute. And you can see that I've pre-staged this to load, and I have actually 3 different subscriptions. So this is my Windows Azure Pass. And again, I've made this a little bit narrower so that it can be shown in all resolutions, but you'll see the different columns, the name, the type, the country region, and the state, and the status. I can work with this display area here and select different columns if I wanted to. So you'll notice there's roughly 4 sections. We have a section up at the top, which is context-specific ribbon, and right now it's asking me about this concept of an affinity group. To the left is a list of menu options, and then to the right is a list of properties. Now both the properties and the menu options can be hidden for more space for the center if you wish. So inside of this, the first thing that I might want to take a look at, because I may have something already deployed, is the deployment health. So this is a deployment health dashboard. Now I have an old account that's showing up as disabled, and I don't have a lot of things deployed here. This is just a demo account. You'll notice the context sensitive ribbon has changed to show only new hosted service and new storage account. I would have to pick a subscription, and let's say I pick my Windows Azure Pass, and then I would have to enter a name for my service. I could say Lynn Test, and then I would have to have a unique URL that would be appended to .cloudapp.net. Now I believe I've used this before, so it's going to probably give me a warning that's no longer available, so I'll just say Lynn Test 1000. Then I need to choose a region, so a data center, so I can select one of the data centers that are available, or an affinity group, which is simply an alias for a data center. And this is used when you have different components in the Windows Azure platform, such as storage and compute, that you wish to be in the same data center and to have affinity. The options available through the portal are to deploy to staging, deploy to production, don't deploy, and then start. And then we can give this deployment a name, Lynn Deploy, and then I would browse for a package file and a configuration file. And I do the hosted services though, because I was working with hosted services. And now that I'm in the hosted services, I can then click on this and then go to look at some of these other options. So let's look next at Affinity Groups. Affinity Groups, as I said, are simply aliases for a particular storage center. So I would just call it, Lynn US North, if that's what I wanted it to be, and then I would just say North Central US and say OK, and then I would have an affinity group. So the next thing to take a look at here are the management certificates. And as I mentioned, as we were actually looking at adding a hosted service, a web role or a worker role, we had the option to add a certificate. So here are a couple certificates that I have just for various things. And if I wanted to add, I just click Add, and then I would get that same dialog box that I did before. So I click it here and associate it with a subscription, and then it's available for my use. So in terms of the hosted services, we looked at those. The only thing that I didn't mention is if we had a hosted service, we would then be able to have more menu options through these options you see on the ribbon here. So upgrade, configure, so on and so forth. VIP swap, you could reboot, reimage, so on and so forth. So the next type of Windows Azure service is storage. So if you wanted to create a new storage account, you just click New Storage Account, and the dialog will come up and it'll ask you for which subscription you wish to create this. Then you enter a URL. Again, this will probably fail because I first of all have to have all small letters, and then it has to be unique. Now that one maybe I haven't used, and notice it's .core.windows.net, and then as with the compute instances, you choose a region or you choose an affinity. And I think I have created this one. I'll try. It'll fail if it's not unique. Choose a region, and I'll pick North Central US and say OK. So you can see the portal has validation to help you get the right thing. And again, I thought that I had set that up before. So this one is actually a different kind of error though. It's telling me that for the Windows Azure Pass, I can't set up any more storage services because I just can play with one or two and I've already set those up. Here are the three types of storage: the blob, table, and queue. And of course they are accessed via REST API, and those are the actual URLs or URIs for them. Shows where they're associated and that they're storage accounts. Up in the top, you see now you could delete this, you could view or regenerate an access key, and we could do something called add a domain. So the domains are so that you can have custom URLs, custom endpoints. You can see I have a custom mapping here. Now in order to complete this, I would have to map this to an actual DNS record. So these are the different aspects of working with hosted services, storage accounts, and CDNs that are exposed through the Windows Azure portal. In the Windows Azure portal, you have the ability to work with the service bus access control and caching capabilities of Windows Azure. So to do that, you click on that menu option on the left side, and you'll see that App Fabric is exposed. And at the top level, you have some help links, but you also can create a new namespace. So if you click on New Namespace, it shows you that you have two available services, Access Control and Service Bus, and then you can put in a namespace to check availability. Now this one may fail because I've actually tried it before, and now it's taken me into the namespace, and I actually have a namespace called Lin Test. So if I wanted to modify that, I would click into it, and there it is, and it's associated with my Windows Azure Pass subscription, and for access control and service bus it's enabled. Now we've announced that shortly after this is recorded, we'll also expose the ability to manage caching through this portal. We announced that at Mix, so you'll see the portal being updated here shortly. You can see that the connection pack right now is for 5 connections as well. So, and you can see these same properties over to the right, and you can see that I have the management endpoint called https lintest1 accesscontrol.windows.net, and here's the access control version. So you can see on this left menu I have access control and I have service bus. So I have the ability to work with the service namespace, and then I can manage the access control service. So if I click on the access control service, that's going to take me to a new portal. So that takes me over to lintest1 accesscontrol.windows.net v2 management web, and here I can work with my identity providers such as Windows Live ID, my relying parties, my rule groups, my certificates and keys, service identities. I can set up portal administrators, management service, and application integration. And the next thing I'll talk about is the virtual network, which is exposed also via the Connect button. So this allows for the ability to set up secure IP-based routing inside of Azure and outside of Azure, and this works with endpoints. So if I click over here, and this is a beta, if I remember correctly, so you have groups and roles and activated endpoints. There we go, is I can, I'm sorry, I have a role, I believe, here. I can work with this, and I can create a group, and I can call it Lynn Test, describe it, and then I can set up connections from and to, and I can move to a group. So I don't have any endpoints, so I can't move. I can work with my activation token as well, so I can get an activation token so that I can work with that activation token in setting up this routing. And also I have the ability to work with my activated endpoints that I've installed. So if I want to install an endpoint, I click here, and there it is, so that I can install this. And you can see the summary is on the details page. SQL Azure, and this is exposed via Windows Azure Pass. Here it is, and here's my actual server. So for the database, you click on the database button, and then you'll see for your particular server, which is a randomly generated name, all the various databases. So I'm going to click on the server, and you'll see that you can manage the firewall through here, or you can use the portal. Now in here, if I wanted to create a new database, I could do so long as my subscription had capacity. Now this is one of those 30-day subscriptions, so if I try to create either a web or a business edition at one of the maximum sizes, it'll actually tell me you've already created your 2 databases, and you can't do that. It'll exceed the quota. So now I'm going to show connecting by clicking the test connectivity button, and I'm going to put in the password to this database that I'd already put up there. You have to have this allow other Windows Azure services to access this server turned on. You'll see that it connects, and if I put an incorrect password, you'll see that it fails, and there's your tracing ID. Now in addition to just taking a look at the databases, you can manage certificates, reset your admin password, and you can create and drop databases. If you click a particular database in the list and you click manage, this will open a child portal. Log in. And here we have our Silverlight widget talking about our database. And we have our ribbon here. If we select a particular table, you'll see that the ribbon is context sensitive, and we can design the table by adding columns or removing them, or data types or whatever, or we can look at the data, considering we have permissions, add or delete rows. If we go back to the level of the database, we actually can write queries and execute them in any environment with the browser. So this is the sort of the child portal. This is very new, and there's lots of new features that are going to be added this year. So right now we have tables, views, and stored procedures. And I'm going to go ahead and close this out and then show you that the last thing here is that we have a beta around SQL Azure reporting services. Now this particular account isn't set up for this. If it were set up, it would just show you the endpoint. It's very, very simple in the portal right now. We do intend to add more features as we make them available. I mentioned that SQL Azure Labs is a separate portal site where beta capabilities are exposed. This will be covered in the subsequent screencast about SQL Server tools. I wanted to take a screenshot of how the Windows Azure portal looks in a different operating system and browser environment. You see here, this is the Mac with Google Chrome. In this series is Visual Studio Tools. I hope that you'll listen in. Thank you.